All right, Uhuru, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to today's study. I am Matsamela Odom, International President of the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement. I'm also a co-host of the Black Power Talks podcast, which makes today a very special study. As you all know, every Thursday evening we hold studies, Revolutionary National Democratic Program, which is the mass program of the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement studies, in which we study a variety of issues, but in relationship to the mass program and the applied African internationalism of the African People's Socialist Party. Today, we are, uh, hold on. Today, today we are dipping into the history of the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement. As you all know, today is this month is still what's called Black History Month. It's African History Month. Um, so we're going to look at the origins of the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement. You know, as NPDUM, we generally look at the birth of NPDUM being 1991, because it's in 1991, April 6th to be exact, that the National People's Democratic Uhuru Movement was formed in Chicago. And I have some slides we'll talk about that. That's NPDUM with an N. Chicago was important because that was the place where 22 years before, uh, Fred Hampton and Mark Clark were assassinated by the United States government, which really signaled the tail end of the U.S. war against the Panthers. And April 6th was the date in 1968 that Little Bobby Hutton, the first casualty of the Black Panthers, was killed, which really signaled the beginning of the war against the Panthers. So, as an organization formed to expose the counterinsurgency, defeat colonialism, revive and complete the Black Power movement, the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement strategically does share some similarity. It shares some its inspiration and formation from the Black Panther Party. The International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement, NPDUM with an N, takes its origins all the way, however, from the People's Democratic Uhuru Movement, which was formed in Oakland, California. It was formed in Oakland, California, in it was formed in Oakland, California, um, in 1985. So today's study is important because as we celebrate African History Month, it's actually this spring, in the spring of 1985, that the People's Democratic Uhuru Movement, a local mass organization, was formed. It was formed on the heels of a very successful campaign to um, it was formed on a very successful heels of a very successful campaign called the Community Control of Housing Initiative, and we'll talk about that, and we'll see a video and things like that today. But it's very important for us to have this discussion today, especially as we move forward, because even though we're talking about over 40 years ago, really when that campaign sort of emerged, we see similar conditions in the U.S. and around the world taking place right now. However, even though the sort of political conditions are similar, the status of U.S. colonial capitalism around the world and U.S. hegemony is a lot different. Whereas in the 1980s, we saw the attack against African poor, the attack against African people, the gutting away of resources and things like that as a part of the possibly still American global power, American hegemony on the ascendancy. Without a doubt, what we see right now is a representation of U.S. hegemony, but also colonial capitalism on the decline. And it's in that sense that really revisiting some of the mass campaigns of the party and thinking about the way in which it allows for us the way forward here in 2025 is important. Now, today's study is a part of the Black Power 96 February Fund Drive. As a part of Black Power 96 February Fund Drive, InPDUM has a goal of raising $500 as we talked about. $500. Let me do something very quick just to make sure it uploads. So yeah, so InPDUM has the goal of raising $500, and even to kick it off, I'm going to commit to $120. I'm already a $75 a month monthly sustainer for Black Power 96. I'm going to raise that up to an extra $10 a month, $85 a month, which I don't know, but it takes that over $1,000, somewhere in the range of I think 12. No, it takes it over $1,000, $1,020 if I'm correct. Might be wrong. Somebody correct my math, but I'm going to kick us off with pledging 85 a month donation. I'm not asking y'all to get like me. When I was in school, we used to play this game. Then none of us had no money, or my mom would send us to school with a quarter a day, and this ain't one. I didn't grow up in the olden days, as some people might say. Still the late '90s. I went to school with a quarter a day. So with a quarter day, you can't do nothing on a quarter day. You really can't. So maybe Kobina and others could, or Mecca for sure. Mecca from where I'm from. So Mecca know that that we used to play something called Get Like Me. We'd flip the quarter. That means you could double your quarter or you could lose your quarter. But so I'm gonna ask. I'm not gonna ask you if someone want to get like me. Then feel free to please get like me. But nevertheless, if you could commit to making a month.
That was a game back in the day. They bought some lunches, boy.
Remember that? But the thing is, you had to sacrifice a couple days. So a couple days you weren't gonna eat, but you had to stack your quarters. You know what I mean?
Right. It panned out. It panned
out. There's also something called penny pitching. I didn't pitch pennies. That's old school. That's old school. Maybe Kumba know about penny pitching. But that was a Midwest thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, no.
Get like me too.
Yeah, so y'all did get like me also?
Absolutely.
All right, so I know a couple of comrades. I see Comrade Jamal has pledged 25. We see Comrade Kumba pledging $10. That's $10 a month or $10 period?
Period.
Okay, cool. Right on. So that takes us 35, and then we see $10 from Comrade Comrade MQ. So with my so that's 120, 240.
I'm gonna do 20.
Okay, right on. I'm going to place that in the chat. We are taking some notes. I'll make sure that I go ahead and get it. But we do have people entering it in. So right now we're already up to shoot, we're already up to like $310, everybody. So we're almost towards our $500 goal. And I actually think that if we keep it going, we can even push it. And remember, you don't have to make it today. If you do make your pledge today, what we'll do is we'll follow up with you about making your pledge later on. But as a part of that, I'm excited to say that Black Power Talks is back. If you are interested in being part of our Black Power Talks show team, email me at info@impedum.org. That's info at impedum, InPDUM.org, and join our show team. You can help host shows. You can help produce on the back end. You can help us write scripts. You can help us book guests. Sure, you could just be a creative person with some ideas. But this one is a good one because when we talk about the early 1980s, and I saw Malik on, so hopefully Malik is still on because there's a classic image of Malik from the early 1980s that where Malik is holding a sign that says something to the extent of like, they say cutback, we say payback, food stamps, hell, we want reparations now, or something like that. And it's in that spirit that this podcast episode was created. It says, while they say cut DEI, we say build Black community control of education. It's very important. This, in some ways, is outgrowth of a study that we did a few months ago around that book. Our history has always been contraband. Clearly understanding two things: that DEI ain't going to save African people. It's not at all. It ain't even saving African people's jobs. Uh, um, uh, but the reason why the colonial capitalists are attacking DI and others are sacrificing it, right? So our supposed friends are sacrificing it. The white nationalist right is attacking it, is because of the larger question over the control of history. Who controls history? We know that as we struggle to overturn the verdict of colonialism, it's been placed on ourselves and African people for the last 600 years. That's reversing history. That's placing the power of history into the hands of African people. So we know for a fact that a couple of different things. Like I said, DI ain't gonna save us, but these colonial capitalists that's waging this attack ain't aren't doing so because of that. They're doing so because they can't even deal with the smidgen of the truth. And so we deal with that in this podcast. This podcast is outgrowth of the June 2024 education and anti-colonial free speech webinar that we held as a part of the Blacks Back Coalition and the Hands Off Uhuru campaign. So it has Chairman Omai Shatella, Professor Robin Kelly, professor, author of a variety of different books: Race Rebels, Hammer and Hoe, Our History Has Always Been Contraband, an excellent book on Monk, another book on jazz, and things like that. Sharice Burden Staley, whose recent book, Black Scare, Red Scare, is getting a lot of fame. And she also has another one called Organized Fight Win, which is about Black communist women. And Yusuf Doucette, Joko Collective, author, English professor, and last but not least, Betty Davis. And for those of us that knew him, Ralph Pointer, we do hear the voice of Ralph Pointer on this episode, and the episode is dedicated to Ralph Pointer. So this is an excellent one. Black Power Talks podcast is back, and we back with a vengeance. So I think that this is going to be a good one, and that might be something we might consider discussing. So today, how we're going to do it? We want to build the appeal. And like I said, we got myself, Matsamela, who has committed $120. We have MQ has committed $120. So that's a $10 monthly donation coming from MQ. We have, and actually, no, I'm gonna add 50 on top of that because I'm doing.
Guy like you.
What'd you say? Oh yeah, exactly. MQMO. There we go. There we go. But now I'm trying to get like MQ because MQ name be calling now, and MQ be up, hitting the farmers market, selling spears, giving out flyers. I'm trying to get like MQ, but you know that's the real black thing to do. I'm trying to get like you. No, I'm trying to get like you. I'm trying to get like you. You know, so so I'm trying to get like you, MQ. We heard from Kobina. I think it was Kobina who said they are uh, pledging. What'd you say, Kobina? Did you say 10 or 20?
I said 20. I said 20.
Okay, so we got Kobina for 20. We got Koumba for 10. And let me know if I got your stuff wrong, yo.
Wait for me.
We got Mecca. I'm gonna wait for you. I know you was talking to somebody else and then unmute and forgot to mute. That's okay. We got Mecca for 20.
Oh,
Wow, and we got Jamal. We got Jamal for 25. And I'll come back to some of the other names just in case I missed anybody. But then we're going to do our study. Watch the video. Do our study. And for the second time, we might not be able to get through all of the reading, but you will have access to the historic Burning Spear article. One thing I would say about the PDUM is that PDUM and is actually the vessel through which we saw Huey P. Newton come back into political life with our campaign to defend Freddie Lee Roberts. But let's get into this, right? So we're gonna get into our pill, then we'll watch the video, and then we'll do the study. Then we'll come back. So tune in. If you don't already listen to Black Power 96 radio, you can tune in on 96.3 FM if you're in the St. Petersburg, Tampa area, and the music is on point. It's with the people. Or you can also listen on blackpower96.org. You can also download the mobile app. You can download it at the Apple store or at Google Play. So you can go to Google Play or the Apple Store. Similarly, in PDUM, the podcast, the Black Power Talks, you can get that anywhere you get your podcast. Next, February fund drive milestone number 1 has been reached. $3,000 to fund our emergency alert system upgrade. And we know that the last 2 years we've been chronicling the way through which Black Power 96 and APDF have suffered attacks as a part of the attack against the Uhuru movement, but broadly the African liberation movement. So it's in that context that I think it's important that we uphold the victories that we see taking place in the Uhuru movement. It's important that we uphold the victory of the Uhuru Foods and Pies Bakery in North St. Louis, uphold the victory of the alert system. See, the thing is that any movement for liberation has at its two strengths: its ideology and the people. Right, with the people are the real currency, and that's represented in the victory that we saw a couple Thursdays ago, a couple weeks ago, in defense of the Uhuru Foods and Pies bakery that's opening up, right? With people behind you, you can't be defeated. So yeah, so we raised the $3,000 to fund upgrades to the emergency alert system, especially after the hurricanes hit. We know this stuff is absolutely vital. We know the people, including some people who are in today's event, contributed to that. So we really want to thank you all for this very much needed upgrade. As noted, and this should say 1,000. This should say $500. There's a little bit of a delay, but as noted, the goal for our study today is to raise funds for Black Power 96. Let me see if I can refresh this. There we go. As noted, today's goal is to raise funds for Black Power 96. And our goal is to raise $500. And the truth is, we're only $150 away for that. I saw somebody gave $40 to us through Cash App. What I'm going to do is thank you. I think that's Comrade Stephanie. Comrade Stephanie, that $40, I'm going to send that over to Black Power 96. So we're going to go ahead and add you for the $40 donation on Cash App. And so what I will do is I'll transfer that over from the InPDUM Cash App to the Black Power 96. You can go to you can Cash App $ actually Black Power 96. So $ Black Power 96 for the future donations, but you don't have to worry about that, Comrade Stephanie. We're going to go ahead and get that sent over for you. So that takes us actually only $110 away from today's goal of $500. And all that means is for during the summer fund drive, we're going to add an extra 500 on top, and we're going to bring back the capacity for InPDUM to raise $1,500 during the summer. But I'm really, really grateful. And then we'll also look out on YouTube, on Facebook. If anyone is in Facebook or on YouTube, please place your commitments inside the chat. We'll have our moderators go there, pull the information, and draw it up. But nevertheless, you can donate online at blackpower96.org/donate. That goes through something called Donor Box, and you can set up either one-time donations or recurring donations. So like I said, if you want to donate $50, but you ain't got $50 today, but over the next 12 months you got $50, you can donate $5, make that a 60, right? And say, okay, over the next 12 months. So we talking about one-time donations, or you can have it being a recurring donation. As noted, I donate 75, but I'm moving that up to 85. You can also donate through Cash App. Like I said, $. I think they call that a cash tag. Power 96. So $ or cash tag. Black Power 96. And I love the name of the Black Power 96 radio show because, as some of y'all know, it's in 1996 that the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement, then called the National People's Democratic Uhuru Movement, defended Tyronn Lewis. Why did I say Tyronn Lewis? That's that basketball coach. So somebody help me out. Comrade Tyronn Lewis. No. Who was murdered by St. Petersburg police and what's called the Battle of St. Pete. And we've watched that documentary here, I think last August. You can also send checks. You can mail your checks into Black Power 96, 1245 18th Avenue South. Yes, Tyronn Lewis. If you are interested in mailing it in, probably in the memo or something like that, or let them know that this was a part of the Black Power Talks / InPDUM fundraiser, so we can get that accounting. Now, special thank yous. I want to we really want to thank let you know about some thank yous and give backs that we will give you if you participate. So all donors, everyone who donates will get this magnet. And trust me, my refrigerator is filled with these magnets, y'all. And they're really good for holding up things that have been on my refrigerator for 3 years. You know, it just if you're like me, you got post-it notes for things that you were supposed to do years ago. But but no, right? Um, these are great. I love my Black Power 96 magnets and my burning spirit magnets. So this is a good one, right? Weather the weather the storms together with Black Power 96. That was the title of a great webinar that was held last week about how Black Power 96 is a resource for information during severe weather and overall is a voice for the community through all kinds of challenges. And we know that the weather problem that we have is not necessarily a weather problem, but it's a problem with colonialism. We know that colonialism is the source for the weather problem. Whether we're talking about the current hurricanes in South Florida that are now hitting in times that are not traditional hurricane periods, or the wildfires hitting Southern California in the middle of the winter at a time in which we don't normally get wildfires. We know that this is colonial at its base, and with it being colonial at its base, we know that the way forward is to continue to build power in the hands of the African working class. That's what we do. And APDF is the baddest Black nonprofit uh, on the planet. If you give $100 today or do $10 or more a month, today, or increase your donation by $10, hey, that's me, right on. We'll send you an LED, one of these LED flashlights that can be resourceful for power outages. Recharging is easy and simple with a squeeze. So ensure you'll never be left in the dark due to dead batteries. This is excellent. Trust me. I mean, even when you're doing small things like working on your car or whatever it is. Now, next, t-shirts. We got two different types of t-shirts, but nevertheless, if you give a donation of $300 today or commit to $25 or more, you can either get a Black Power 96 t-shirt or piggybacking off of today's study, you can also get a $25 for you can also get a t-shirt commemorating the history of the International People's Democratic Uhuru movement, deepening the counteroffensive since 1985. Actually, we've changed this one because originally it said 1989 because that's when the founding convention of NPDUM was, but now it says 1985 because that's when the founding conference for NPDUM was. So now it says deepening the counteroffensive since 1985. PDUM 1985, NPDUM 1991, and NPDUM with an I 2001. So either one, whether you want a Black Pride 96 t-shirt, let us know, or a Deepening the Counteroffensive t-shirt, let us know. But $25 a month or more will get you that t-shirt. Next, we really want to, like I said, shout out so many different sustainers, members that we have. We want to recognize you all, some of which are actually on this call. And if we miss your name, like they say, charge it to my brain, not to my heart. So, Comrade Jamal in Minnesota, already a sustainer. Comrade Johan, Secretary General Mwezi, Comrade Fofi out of St. Louis, Comrade Janice out of St. Pete, Comrade Virginia out of Indiana, Comrade Kasha out of St. Pete, Comrade Stephanie out of St. Louis, Comrade Brenda out of St. Louis, Comrade Leah out of Minneapolis, Comrade Raya, Chicago, Sarah, Minneapolis, Michael, Wisconsin. We got the director of the All African People's Development and Empowerment Project, Dr. Aisha Fields in Alabama, Comrade Sandy in Washington State, Comrade Janet, who's also in Washington State doing excellent work up there, Comrade Yendu, talking about someone whose agitprop work is the basis for, serves the basis for the party and who we are right now. Got Comrade Yendu, whose work goes back well over 55 years. And Absalom in New York, Comrade Emmanuel. These supporters give a monthly donation to provide a stable base of funding for the station. So we encourage everybody who is a part of this, who is not a monthly sustainer, to consider becoming a monthly sustainer. Like I said, only $5 a month keeps African working class centered radio in the hands of the African community. And it's not simply just about entertainment, it really is about anti-colonial free speech. We also want to thank and shout out all supporting members. So we want to include Comrade MQ, who is now actually a sustaining member. We want to shout you out, and so many others. Kobina, who else has given today? Comrade Lisa, Comrade Mecca, Comrade Kuumba, Comrade Stephanie. Everyone who's already given today and continues to give, I really, really want to salute you all for the work that you all are doing. So if you didn't hear your name, like I said, charge to my brain, not to my heart, but know that we really do support and thank you for all the work that you all are doing to help move forward Black Power 96 and Black Power Talks. So once again, you can go to hashtag Black Power 96 on Cash App. You can also go to blackpower96.org/donate on the website, or you can mail in checks. We'll get back to this in about an hour, but let's get into today's study. Let's get into today's study. Now, the International People's Democratic Movement, as we noted, was formed in 1991. However, it emerges out of the the strategy of the African People's Socialist Party that goes back in some ways to 1977 with the chairman's tactics and strategies for Black liberation talk that he gave at the Black Organizers Conference at University of Massachusetts Amherst in 1977. But in many ways, actually, it really goes back to the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee chapter that Chairman Omai Shatella organized in 1966 in St. Petersburg, Florida. It was the first membership-based branch of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, organized concurrent to other organizations such as the Revolutionary Action Movement or the Black Panther Party. SNCC, especially being a membership-based organization, essentially took on the exact same character as the Black Panther Party, being a mass organization that fought for the rights of African people. Now, in 1968, we saw the SNCC branch changing to JOMO, the Junta of Militant Organizations, and then in 1972, it became clear for the African People's Socialist Party and Chairman Omai Shatella that what we needed was not simply just a militant organization that fought for reforms, but instead a revolutionary organization that fought to place power to the hands of African people and to overturn the conditions under which we live. I think last year or maybe another year, we actually got down and we dug into one of those originally founding documents of Jomo's old pamphlet about the junta of militant organizations. But today, like I said, we're shifting a little bit. The 1970s, from 1972 to about 1979 for the African People's Socialist Party is a period defined as the period of wartime party building. So go on and take note of that. The 1972 to 1979 is a period of what's called wartime party building. During that period, there were party congresses that had been planned. But none. There were multiple conferences, but no Congress had ever fully manifested during this period because of the attacks against our movement, but the African Liberation Movement overall. Some meetings had to be held in clandestine manner, and in the deepest of secrecy. Chairman talks about. Chairman outlines this in a book, in a pamphlet that you can get on burningspear.store called The New Period. And you really should go and check that out. There was not mass recruitment into the party at this time. However, the party did take on mass campaigns in defense of the African working class. So it was and as the party is a democratic centralist organization, because of the security reasons and the intensity of the struggle, it took on a centralist structure. So 1979 was defined as the new period, or eventually the period of new beginnings. That took us towards our first party Congress. It's during this period that we see the creation of the party's first mass organizations, the African National Prison Organization. Subsequent to that, the African National Reparations Organization, formed 1982. And also the People's Democratic Uhuru movement and other mass movement and mass organizations that either are around or are around in different names and different programs and things like that that the Uhuru movement carries out. This is the period that through which we saw the creation of the solidarity component of our movement and many of the economic components of our movement. So I wanted to say that as we get here and watch, we're going to watch about 10 minutes of the party's 50-year anniversary documentary. It's called Relentless, 50 Years of Leadership Toward African Redemption. So we're going to watch about like I said, the party is going to pick up at the Desi Woods campaign. It's going to show us the Oakland years. I think show us a little bit after that, the formation of the African National Reparations Organization.
Could come to the same conclusions.
Perhaps one of the most profound party-led campaigns, the struggle to free Desi Woods' smash colonial violence, allowed us to raise up the colonial question and negate the ideological influence of the imperialist white left. During this period, we would meet Omowale K. Fing, a revolutionary giant and member of the party. He was a central organizing force, working alongside 19-year-old Denisha Blackearth, leader of the National Committee to Defend Desi Woods. The case surrounded Woods, an African woman who was sentenced to 22 years in prison for successfully defending herself and friend Cheryl Todd against a colonial rape attempt by a white man in 1975. This campaign had worldwide support, as the Committee to Defend Desi Woods toured internationally. We held countless demonstrations throughout the U.S., including the first demonstration to ever happen inside Plains, Georgia, the hometown of James Earl Carter, U.S. President sitting during the time of this campaign. The slogan to smash colonial violence became a dividing line. The opportunism of the white left was expressing itself in a profound way, as they attempted to make the primary issue one based on women's rights. We were told it would be easier to make this a feminist issue, but we held firm, and after intense struggle made by the people, in 1981, Desi X. Woods was a free woman. During this time, where the party was receiving support and participation from all over, the party organized the African National Prison Organization, a mass organization that brought Africans back into political life with the question of political prisoners. The work to build the party was transforming. The chairman presented the political aspects to building a mass movement, the tactical and strategic objectives for Black liberation in 1977 at a Black Organizers Conference at the University of Massachusetts in Amherst. This presentation, published in the pages of the Burning Spear newspaper, was widely studied throughout the African liberation movement and would inform the way in which we do work going forward.
When the party came out and said, smash colonial violence, that was it. Because that made you have to reckon with the state. And if you know it's the state doing it, not some far-off idea in somebody's head called racism, then you know that if you're in solidarity, you are choosing to be in solidarity with the African working class and oppressed peoples of the world. And you can't hide. You can't hide out anymore. You're going to really acknowledge it, because if it's colonialism, we're a part of it. Colonialism cannot exist on its own. I mean, you can have bad ideas, racist ideas about someone. It does not connect you to them in any way. But when it's colonialism, there has to be a colonizer and a colonized. And that is the ultimate truth. That really is what organizes one in a principled relationship with the African working class, the African Revolution.
Oakland, California, had been a hotbed for African revolution due to it being the birthplace of the Black Panther Party for self-defense. In many ways, it had been the center of the Black Power movement, and with our work surrounding the Desi Woods campaign and building the Solidarity Front, the party would bring the movement back to life in this city. For 12 years in the 1980s and early 90s, Oakland was the national headquarters of our party. We would conduct our party's first Congress in Oakland in 1981. The party intervened in countless struggles, especially in regards to housing, homelessness, and rent control. In 1984, we led the Community Control of Housing Initiative, known as Measure O, which organized numerous volunteers who delivered more than 300,000 flyers to the doorsteps of Oakland residents, which resulted in winning 29,000 votes on the ballot. Our fierce struggles resulted in the takeover of an abandoned house in East Oakland for a homeless family, a generation before the rise of the Occupy movement. We fought the slumlords every step of the way, while bringing the African community of Oakland back into political life. The party conducted the second historical Freedom Summer project, and in a short time, we built a movement and opened the Uhuru House on MacArthur Boulevard. Huey P. Newton, chairman of the Black Panther Party, made his last speeches at the Uhuru House, passing the torch to the APSP after stating,
Uhuru House. Okay. You might not have the
It was the party who, following Newton's assassination in 1989, led a major campaign to change the narrative around Huey. After the media slandered him, all of their headlines reading from Prime Minister to Bum. The party declared that we would change those headlines by the time Huey's funeral came. We waged a scorched earth campaign, covering every surface with images and slogans extolling Huey. We also played a huge role in organizing his funeral, having even printed the program. Huey was right. The Black Revolution still had a pulse. Along with our Uhuru House, we would develop more community programs like the Bobby Hutton Freedom Clinic, Uhuru Bakery and Cafe, Spear Graphics, Uhuru Foods and Pies, Uhuru Furniture, and more. We would recruit Bakari Olatunji, one of the leading members of our party today. We would see a powerful leader in the form of Biko Lumumba and develop a fraternal relationship with Unión del Barrio, the Mexican Liberation Organization. In addition, we raised Lavelle Mixon up as an African martyr, defining this issue for our community after he killed 4 Oakland cops in March of 2009 in an act of African resistance. It has been the party's history in Oakland that has sustained the African community's revolutionary fervor through countless forums, campaigns, marches, and more. Today, the demand for reparations is being hotly debated. Case studies are being done by institutions as a means to legitimize reparations to African people in the U.S. The same forces who were vocally opposed to the demand are now proposing various types of reform or poverty programs as reparations. But why are they discussing this now? It's because the party determined that we would make reparations a household word over 40 years ago. In 1981, the party revised and adopted our 14-point working platform, with point number 11 being, we want the U.S. and the international European ruling class and states to pay Africa and African people for the centuries of genocide, oppression, and enslavement of our people. We took this demand to the streets to be embraced by the African masses. In 1982, the party held the first of 12 consecutive world tribunals in Brooklyn, New York, where Chairman Amalia Shatella served as the people's advocate. The proceedings of this tribunal employed the use of international law to prove our case and indict the U.S. on the crime of genocide against African people. The first tribunal featured testimonials from different sectors of the African nation, raising up the crime of genocide as it related to education, poverty, healthcare, prisons, and more. Among the speakers was Comrade Mafundi Lake, political prisoner in the state of Alabama, Afeni Shakur, former member of the Black Panther Party and mother of Tupac Shakur. In our work to build for the first tribunal, we met fierce revolutionary Gaida Cambone and built the African National Reparations Organization. The consecutive tribunals would take place throughout the U.S. They would gain news coverage and interest of Africans from all over. This was not the extent of our reparations work, however. During the Reagan administration and the threat of government assistance cutbacks, the party raised the slogans, "They say cutback, we say payback, reparations now," and "Food stamps hell, reparations now." The responsibility of APSC began to expand. Fight for reparations to the African
The initial tribunal was in Brooklyn. But that was all connected to the same period. But just the party taking on, raising up the demand African work.
All right, Uhuru. So I love that documentary. Let me know if y'all can hear me.
Yes.
Uhuru.
Oh, right on. All right. So let's see. Yeah, I mean, let's see. I think I was having on my other device some connection issues, but let me know if it's still sort of having issues, and I'll go off Wi-Fi. Am I breaking up?
No.
All right, Uhuru. So I really Appreciate that documentary. Like I say, you find on YouTube. You can separate it into segments. What I like to do is I like to take segments of it, and then I like to pair it with readings from either the Burning Spear or the um, Uneasy Equilibrium, because Uneasy Equilibrium has a chapter in it called The History of Our Party. And I think you can, like I said, take segments of that and read segments of the history of our party and just build together a very dynamic study out of it. So let's go ahead. Like I said, I have another computer, and my other computer is seemingly breaking up a little bit. But I do want to share the document that we're going to go over. But any questions, responses about the video that you all just saw?
It was just interesting to mention the tribunal because, as you know, and others know, one of the people that actually presented something at that tribunal was none other than Eric Adams on behalf of NBUF.
Yeah, National Black United Front. I mean, I think in many different ways go for it.
I did not know that. That's wild.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And in many ways, it sort of encapsulates, sort of the period of struggle, um, some of the contradictions, but also sort of the class contradictions that emerged out of the Black Power movement, that the party itself is involved in overturning by placing the struggle in the hands of the African working class. Underneath the aspirations of the African working class and a party that's led by the African working class. So yeah, you're absolutely correct. Let me try something. So let's get into the reading for today. So I'll go ahead and place the reading for today.
I want to say I thought the video was the documentary was dynamic, and giving a synopsis of the party. The thing that stood out to me the most was like the party being in the trenches, the movement being in the trenches, in every aspect of our struggle, and it's always engaging the people, you know what I'm saying, and always trying to bring the people into the movement, and into political life. Like, even you heard on several different occasions, like, around the tenant association was organizing and engaging the masses to come into political life. You know what I'm saying? Around the reparation question, you know what I'm saying? Organizing the tribunal to win the people to political life. It was never just an armchair type of theory and practice. It was out in the community, engaging the community as the primary organizing strategy. You know what I'm saying? I think that's significant in a lot of ways because a lot of other organizations. I think that's part of what separates us from a lot of other organizations is because there a lot of times people are not really engaging in the African working class, even though they want to speak on the African working class. And I think you just mentioned something too that shows the difference in the class question. And a lot of the other organizations that say that they're about liberation, they deal with the middle class and kind of oftentimes even criticize and step on the African working class, and go in a whole different direction that doesn't benefit the masses of people. So I thought that was significant to really show practically, the theory at work and always engage in the masses. So
I think I saw Comrade Jamal also.
Oh, comrades, yes, and I just think it was really interesting to see once again the history of connecting the first tribunal to the Africans to what became the Africans Charged Genocide Campaign, right? I mean, the Africans Charged Genocide Campaign itself was also modeled off of the We Charged Genocide Campaign from the 50s, but that Africans Charged Genocide Campaign is right in line with raising the consciousness of reparations and also became one of the sources for U.S. colonial state attack. Right, it was one of the
Right.
things that the state cited when they went after the Uhuru Three.
Yeah, you know what? I really appreciate what I really appreciate the point that you just made because of the fact that yeah, that's an important point you made because I remember when I signed on to the petition, I signed on to the petition not even as a primary organizer with InPDUM, but someone who was in support of the movement. And I signed on specifically because I saw the similarities. I saw the similarities between the African Charged Genocide Campaign and the We Charge Genocide Campaign. It's a magnificent campaign. Led by magnificent people like William Patterson and W.B. Du Bois and others. But we know that that was a campaign that, despite its brilliance, did not have with it the mass character of the African working class. So what we saw with the African Charged Genocide Campaign, a campaign that had gained upwards of 130,000 signatures in support of charging the United States to commit genocide, is we saw it as another process through which the struggle for African liberation, the struggle for the democratic rights the democratic rights of African people was placed into the hands of the African working class. So yeah, and like you said, the significance of it. Sometimes we learn our own significance through the attacks that we get from the state, and I think for many of us, uh, July 29th, 2022 might have been that moment and understanding even our own significance, not just at this moment, but actually in history, everybody, to what happened then, but also to what we were able to pull off, everybody, in September, and then subsequently in December 2024. But now the other important thing is you see all those campaigns being taken to the people, letting them be people's victory. And then from the victory of that Desi Woods work, turning that into organization. That's what it's about. That's what it means to wage counteroffensive. In the 2023 convention, we said deepening the counteroffensive, completing the Black Power movement. This time we will win. And the International People's Democratic Movement was created in the process of an attempt to complete the Black Power movement. So let's go on here and let's get into the reading. We might not exactly read through everything for the sake of time, but let's see how much we can get through. If I can see a show of hands of people who are interested in reading. And so I placed this in the chat. We can repost it again so people can have access to it. Oh, sorry. I think MQ, your hand might have been up. Let me acknowledge your hand. Was that for a question, MQ?
Oh, I'm sorry. I would like to read.
Okay, Uhuru. So I'll kick it off and then I'll pass it. And like I said, maybe we're looking at this is some reading. So let's see how much we can get through. Let's see if we can get through about 20 minutes worth of reading. On the screen, it is showing up a little pixelated. So just in case that happens, the link's been placed in the chat. So let's go and kick this off. So this is the January the December 1989, January 1990 Burning Spear. The important thing to note is following this convention, you have the January 1990 Freedom Weekend in St. Petersburg, Florida. That's where Chairman gives a speech that turns into the dialectics of Black Revolution. So really from 85 to like 90, you really see the, actually even going back even before, and I think we can go back actually to 1977 with Tactics and Strategies and so many other documents, but literally just in the PDUM slash NPDUM formations that are emerging. Also, there's another group called the ACDC, African Community Defense Committees, which we're toying with even bringing back right now as we see the African community come under attack by different white nationalist policies. We see the development of the we can see the blueprint for the formation of NPDUM. So let's dig into this. It says, People's Democratic Uhuru Movement Convention defines new period of struggle. The work of the African People's Socialist Party took a great leap forward on December 16th, 1989, with the founding of the People's Democratic Uhuru Movement at Laney College, a community college now located near Oakland, near downtown Oakland. The founding convention of PDUM was attended by nearly 100 people of various nationalities and political tendencies. It was seen as a clear signal that the work of the African People's Socialist Party, the advanced attachment of the oppressed African masses, had entered a new period. And like I said, the point here is that PDUM had already been existing before then, and this will go into that. The founding convention of PDUM was attended by nearly 100 people of various nationalities, political tendencies. I already talked about that. The first period of party work in Oakland began in 1981, when the African People's Socialist Party opened our first Uhuru House here and began to build the mass movement that would come to be known as the Uhuru movement. The main resolution that was adopted by PDUM, by the PDUM convention, summed up the first period of the party work and how it led to the PDUM and this period that we consider the second period in this way. So we're not necessarily doing calls for membership today, but if anyone did want to join NPDUM, feel free. Because one thing that really takes back to me, you know, as y'all know, I'm an African historian, but we're not talking about dead organizations, right? I mean, I get a certain level of chills when I'm reading about groups like the Universal Negro Improvement Association, the African Blood Brotherhood, even the early work of Malcolm X, you know, other magnificent organizations. But this is a different level of chills that I get because even though this is 35 years ago, we are a part of this history. That's what's different, right? Is we are a part of this history. That's this continued thing. See, the reason why I say that is because, you know, even in bourgeois academia, sometimes there's this like sort of theory that like, oh, organizations don't have to exist because, you know, even though they get crushed, there's almost like a spirit that they have that lives on in other organizations. That's all good. That's what a guy by the name of Antonio Gramsci called the war of maneuver. Actually, sorry, no, the war of position, right? Gramsci called it the war of position. That's cool. I'm down with the war of position. But you can have the war of position and a continued political organization, because with the political organization comes the history, the ideology, the memory, the organizational memory, the organizational memory, the people, the documents, the institution to build upon. You're not continuously having to go back and reinvent the wheel. So that's why it's really magnificent reading this for myself. Just want to say that. The convention recognizes that It was the Uhuru movement under the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party that destroyed the neo-colonialist class peace of this city, which rested upon the military defeat of the Black Revolution of the 60s, led by the Oakland-based Black Panther Party and the heroic revolutionary working class African masses. We understand that when the Uhuru movement first began its work in Oakland in 1981, shortly following the inauguration of Ronald Wilson Reagan, 666, as U.S. president, uh, it was it was during a period when the current features of imperialist dialectic was consolidated as a contest between revolution and counter-revolution as the main tendency of the world. Counter-revolution within the U.S., which was a prerequisite for the U.S.-led counter-revolution abroad, had achieved victory with the military defeat of the Black Revolution of the 60s, but was even then in 1981 still attempting to consolidate this military victory with a political victory as it continues to do today. The convention, and we can really change these dates to 2025 if we need to, right? This convention recognizes that prior to the emergence of the Uhuru movement in Oakland, the revolutionary aspirations of the heroic Black working class have been crushed with the destruction of the Black Panther Party, instead essentially disorganized, demoralized, and without the capacity to articulate and fight for its own interests. We understand that with the defeat of the Black Revolution of the 1960s, the class aspirations of the petty bourgeoisie for integration into the capitalist system were used to hide the class relations and contradictions concentrated in the struggle for African liberation. The official slogan of Oakland declaring it to be the most integrated city in the US was only one of the more blatant attempts to obscure the class interests and genuine anti-colonial aspirations for self-determination of the oppressed African community. We recognize that during the first period of activity by the Uhuru movement in Oakland, the period of building and consolidating our movement to the point where this convention has become possible and necessary, the Uhuru movement had to contend with a class peace which relied on domestic neocolonialism, the continuing domination of white capitalist power through Black elected officials and government administrators. So I think you said you could pick up, go on and pick up there. Like I said, we might not get through everything. We'll take it another 15 minutes and just see where it leaves us, and maybe we'll return to this. But can you read from there? If not, I can give you the link.
Uhuru, I can read.
Uhuru.
We understand that a small neo-colonial trader sector of the Black petty bourgeoisie actively participates in the national oppression and class exploitation of the African population. Members of this sector have been allowed to become bureaucratic capitalists who are permitted by the white ruling class to use political and administrative offices to accumulate capital through rake-offs in the form of minority contract rights and special welfare and other programs designated for social needs. At the same time, the locally based white ruling class was ruthlessly crushing the black workers in more and more desperate poverty, literally taking bread from babies and shelter from families who were turned into the equivalent of wandering refugees within the city. The first period of party work was characterized by our sharp struggles to break up the rotten, oppressive class peace, while building a social movement beneficial to the interests of the broad mass of oppressed African workers, both employed and unemployed, and under the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party. the advanced detachment of the African working and poor people. This period of struggle was characterized thusly by the main resolution. Hence, we understand the tasks of the Uhuru movement during the first period of work in Oakland were to force the interests of the domestically colonized, oppressed, revolutionary African working class back on the political agenda of Oakland. The tasks included reorganizing the African working class while strengthening its leadership in the form of the African People's Socialist Party as part of a struggle to build a social movement which would affect all classes of all nationalities. We realized that this first period of work by the Uhuru movement was motivated by an attempt to smash the class peace within a process which would raise up the interests and leadership of the most consistently revolutionary social force within current U.S. borders, the African working class, including its employed and chronically unemployed components. Hence, we recognize the correct basis of the strategy of the Uhuru movement during the first period, which aimed to its main blows at the petty bourgeoisie of all nationalities, who were the instruments of hidden bourgeois rule and who provided the political cover for bourgeois influence among the progressive sectors, with the primary target being the black petty bourgeoisie trader sector. We also understand the Uhuru movement tactics of absolute confrontation, constant political exposure, ideological undermining, and relentless struggle while drawing the black working class into campaigns and programs which spoke primarily to immediate needs were attempts by the Uhuru movement to organize the people to a long-term relationship with their actual interests and the ultimate aims of the revolutionary anti-colonial struggle for self-determination. This founding convention to build the People's Democratic Uhuru movement recognizes the success of the Uhuru movement under the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party in transforming the political situation in Oakland. We understand that as a result of the work of the Uhuru movement during the first period, the campaigns, programs, and mobilizations, the millions of pieces of literature distributed, the articles in the Burning Spear, etc., thousands and thousands of people have been affected by the presence of the Uhuru movement. And as a consequence, by the material interests of the black working class is concentrated in and given expression by the African People's Socialist Party, its advanced sector. We recognize that the class peace which had prevailed under the immediate arrogant leadership of the black petty bourgeois neo-colonialist puppets has been fractured and continues to exist barely in a highly fragile state. We knew that the confusion provided by many lefts has become less so, as most of the opportunist pretenders of different nationalities have been forced to quietly wither away or to openly join the camp of the bourgeoisie against the interests of the black working class. And many of these left opportunists have only recently attempted to resurface behind the consequences of the devastation of the October 17th earthquake and with the public participation by former leaders of the Black Panther Party. Moreover, we recognize the significance of the growth and prestige for the North American Solidarity Movement, which, under the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party, constitutes an important component of the Uhuru movement, representing as it does the only non-opportunist, revolutionary relationship between the North American or white community and the anti-colonial struggle for black national liberation and socialism. This convention to build the People's Democratic Uhuru movement understands how the presence and work of the Uhuru movement under the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party during its first period of work has widened, concretized, and conscientized the split between the people and the government, giving masses of dissident people throughout the city a vehicle and forum through which to express dissent, thereby creating the conditions wherein it has become possible to transform the definition of the people from what it was for the benefit of the struggle during the first period. We agree that the definition of the people, as characterized by the first period, to only include the oppressed African working class, its allies, including the Solidarity Movement, under the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party, must now be transformed to mean the non-opportunist workers of all nationalities, the oppressed sector of the black petty bourgeoisie, all those willing to unite with the material interests of the black working class, and all who are unwilling to unite with the white ruling class and the neo-colonialist puppet government against the interests of African workers and other oppressed workers and classes. To make it clear that our definition of the second period of party work was not just a clever dodge to obscure some liberal capitulation on our part. The main resolution went to great lengths to elaborate on the quality and quantity of the party work that transformed the first period. It is a quality and quantity of work unmatched by any revolutionary anti-colonial political movement within the U.S. The main resolution summed up this work by the party. This convention recognizes that the high tide of work by the Uhuru movement that helped to issue in this second period, which calls for the building of the People's Democratic Uhuru movement, was the electoral campaign to initiate a land reform law known as Measure O, which ended in November 1984, and the mayoral election campaign boycott of April 1985, which followed the Measure O election by 5 months. We understand these campaigns as representative of the point of departure from one period of work by the Uhuru movement to another. We see these two campaigns along with the later establishment of various Uhuru movement institutions, including Uhuru Foods, Uhuru Furniture, etc., Uhuru Baker and Cafe, the Uhuru Solidarity Center, and Spear Graphics typesetting and printing operation, as representing the clearest measurement of political transformation within Oakland to date. We recognize the success of the Measure O campaign in winning 20% of the vote, which constituted 25,000 votes crossing all lines of nationality. Also revealed the possibility of a sector of the North American population becoming a reserve force for the revolutionary black working class movement. Additionally, the convention recognizes the success of the April election boycott based on the inability of any of the candidates to unite with our People's Democratic platform and is representative of the growing political maturity of the masses of people and a refusal to simply vote for a candidate based on the bourgeois concept of electing a lesser of evils. Hence, the significance of a voter turnout only slightly more than half that of the previous election, and representing a mere 18.2% of the registered voters. This founding convention to build the People's Democratic Uhuru movement recognizes the founding of the People's Democratic Uhuru movement as the most politically significant step to advance the Uhuru movement from the first period of struggle to the second period, which will move us from a stance of all struggle and no unity to a stance of unity and struggle. We recognize that the People's Democratic Uhuru movement, under the revolutionary leadership of the African working class through its advanced sector, organized within the African People's Socialist Party, will provide the main organizational instrument for advancing us into the period of unity and struggle. That the founding of the People's Democratic Uhuru movement should provide the opportunity to organize all those forces who in 1,000 different ways have indicated their unity with the Uhuru movement, but who have not previously been provided the organizational and programmatic vehicle for achieving full status as a conscious, organized, and self-mobilizing second camp. We understand that the founding of the People's Democratic Uhuru movement should allow for greater entry into political life of the vast majority of African workers in Oakland. Where is it?
Down to the bottom. There's a
Oh,
row
down the bottom.
below
Okay.
the
Thank you.
pictures.
Oakland, whose experience of political isolation during and as a consequence of the defeat of the Black Revolution in the 60s has not yet allowed many of them to conclude that they are prepared to risk life and imprisonment in revolutionary struggle in their own interests and under their own revolutionary leadership. We also see the founding of the People's Democratic Uhuru movement as providing an opportunity to win political support from other workers and democratic forces that are otherwise, and for whatever non-reactionary reasons, estranged from the revolutionary process we have initiated. The People's Democratic Uhuru movement must continue to recognize as our main focus of political work, the struggle to raise up the African working class, which must ascend to active leadership in the struggle and must become the main conscious, organized agents in the struggle for power to the people and black power to the black community. This means more activity among the toiling, exploited, and oppressed masses, and greater and more creative activity with our street work, community organizations, and all the Uhuru movement institutions which are now a part of the People's Democratic Uhuru movement. This means we must enhance and develop our capacity to bring revolutionary education to the masses, and especially among the African working class, employed and unemployed, who bear the brunt of the U.S. colonial counterinsurgency, which represents a public attack on the national democratic rights of the African masses under the guise of fighting against drugs. This founding convention to build the People's Democratic Uhuru movement reaffirms the centrality of the struggle around the basic requirements of the colonial oppressed African population for food, clothing, shelter, meaningful education, and decent health care as part of the overall effort by African people to reacquire political independence and self-determination from the U.S. government, which is
Uhuru,
forcibly imposed and
no, go for it.
sorry.
Sorry.
Oh, okay. Which is forcibly imposed and maintains its will on Africans and other subject peoples within the U.S. by force of arms.
So I'll
In
pick up
addition to
here.
the
So I'm not going to necessarily have us read through everything, but I did find this part of the document important. Before there was the Revolutionary National Democratic Program, which is our 77-point program to struggle for the democratic rights of the African community, there was what was called the People's Democratic Platform. That was formed in, once again, April 1985. So we see April 91, April 85, being, and actually some of the earliest conventions of InPDUM used to actually happen in April, and we toyed with having one in April this year. But but so I'll just like read maybe like the first sentence of the different 7 different points of the People's Democratic Platform. And we can really see like from the People's Democratic Platform to the Revolutionary National Democratic Program, what we see is the struggle for the democratic rights of African people being placed into the hands of the African working class in the way that gives us the fighting capacity to struggle to overturn the social system. This is also sort of uh, part of the strategy of what you call dual and contending power. So first is we need a verifiable um, hire Oakland first policy for all corporations which do business in the city of Oakland. So we're talking about the struggle for jobs, right? And you go in today and listen to the program, where Comrade Ralph Pointer lays out what Black community control of education is, and he says the reason why we stuck around education because the school districts have to do, these are jobs. It's a question of jobs and employment. So here we also have the we demand community control over schools. We see that. Number 3, we demand community control of the police. And we see who function within the oppressed African community as occupying army with 80% of the North American or white members of that armed institution living in other cities. We talking about we demand immediate withdrawal from the African and other colonial oppressed communities of all special paramilitary. We see that. We see the demand that the city government immediately end the land grants, tax write-offs, and other giveaways to major corporations of Oakland and those it attempts to induce to move to Oakland. And we can see some of this even in InPDUM's work in St. Louis right now, especially the stuff we were doing against the LRA. We demand community control of housing. 7, finally, we demand reparations to African people by the state of California and the Oakland government. And like I said, this is when this stuff was considered lunatic fringe, right? We were pushing forward on this. We see here some other stuff, right? We see expressions of unity between African and indigenous Mexican people. We believe that reparations the outline of reparations. I want to show you this. The convention was chaired by Biko Lumumba, chairman of the Oakland African People's Socialist Party. So that is the father of Comrade Jacob Lumumba, who is the Southern Region coordinator, who I'm proud to say joined the party here in San Diego, California. Gotta always remind her that. So Biko organized it. There were different workshops on drug repression and the attack on the Black democratic rights, housing and education in Oakland, as well. The first workshop on drugs featured a panel of Penny Hess. We know who that is. Attorney Oliver Jones, Chairman of Mali Shatella, David Hilliard, former Black Panther Party. The workshop on housing and education featured a tenant activist, Michael Grunwald, Oscar Wright. So I mean, as you look at more and more about this sort of this historic convention that took place. So what I want us to do right now is our return to our appeal, and then let's open it up for discussion. I remind everybody that this appeal, that this study today is being held in unity with the Black Power 96 February Fund Drive. We brought forth the goal of raising $500, and we're only $35 away from reaching our goal today. I want to thank Comrade Lisa out of Minneapolis, Comrade Jamal, who's already a sustainable, but donated $25 today, Comrade MQ, who's pledged a $10 a month sustainership for $120, Comrade Kobina, who's pledged $20, Comrade Kuumba, who's pledged $10, Comrade Mecca, who's pledged $10. We got Comrade MQ. Want to salute you, Comrade MQ, who also has just made a $35 donation, taking us up to $500 for today, and helping us meet our goal. But we can still go past our goal. And remember, the donate. We got Comrade Mecca, $20, Comrade Stephanie, $40, Comrade Frank, $5, Comrade Brandiana, $20. We got Comrade Sayero has pledged $10, and I tossed in another 50, y'all. Bitch can't get like me. Bitch can't get like me. Can't get like me. What's that thing that the thing the kids do? So we've met our goal, but let's go beyond our goal. So just a reminder, if you are donating, go to blackpower96.org/donate, or you can go to Cash App to Cash Tag, which is the $sign Black Power 96, or you can mail in. We have viewers on Facebook. We also have viewers watching on YouTube. Want to salute everybody. I think I saw Comrade Yawo. If you're still watching on YouTube, Comrade Yawo out of Oakland, want to salute you for being present in the audience. I've worked with Comrade Yawo. Comrade Yawo writes, I met the Uhuru movement and Chairman Amalia Shatella in Oakland, my home, 1989, and have learned and subscribed to African internationalism since. Salute to Chairman and NPDUM. And it's during this work, it's 1985, that we saw Comrade Bakri Olatunji, former leader of the party out here out west for decades, come into the work of the Uhuru movement as well. So we got got all the special thanks. Everybody that donates is going to get, no matter what you donate, going to get this magnet. Really underscoring the importance of Black Power 96. If you donate $100 or $10 monthly sustainership, you can get this LED flashlight. For $25 a month sustainership or $300 today, you can either get a Black Power 96 t-shirt, or we'll order you this commemorative InPDUM t-shirt, which commemorates the origins of NPDUM going back to 1985. Like I said, salute to all the sustainers we have out there. So many on there. Salute to everybody that's donated today. Like I said, if I haven't said your name, charge it to my heart. No, charge it to my brain, not my heart. Lord. I don't say Lord, but geez. Um, so so let's open it up for discussion. We got about 20 minutes left for discussion before we adjourn today. Comrade Erica, I don't know if I've ever heard from you, so I'm really excited to hear what you have to say. And then Comrade Jamal.
Hi, yeah, I actually just joined maybe like 2 weeks ago, the
Oh, right on.
APS. Yeah, so I think it's really interesting to look at the literature from like times past. I think it helps to kind of cultivate a sense of confidence in the work our people have been doing consistently over the years. Um, and it kind of allows us to have reference points of like how um, history has been distorted and whitewashed to kind of make us feel like docility is our instinctive position. Because I was
Right.
like 2 years, like maybe like just 2 days ago, kind of, or not 2 days ago, like 6 months ago, I kind of began to learn about George Jackson's like
Mm.
the books they found in his cell. So I was like going through all of those books and seeing um, like the books about the history of slave rebellions in the country. And I had no reference point for any of these things. So I think seeing all of the literature for in reference to like this particular organization is very empowering because it lets you know like this isn't something that we've that you can't haphazardly go against like a US hegemonic enterprise or like any sort of colonial entity. It's it's suicidal in a sense. So it's like being able to see that there's been organized and intentional efforts over the years is really empowering, I think, and makes you feel like you can kind of look and see how things have been sidetracked or co-opted over the years and see how things have been redirected by at
Mhm.
the behest of the state to kind of sideline the progress we're trying to make collectively as a people, um, and confuse us and like make us feel defeated. And I feel like it's nice to see these articles and see like, oh no, like people have been doing everything they can with whatever means that they have had available to them, no matter where they are, to have respect and purpose. So, yeah.
Right, right. I appreciate that because what you are laying out in many ways, without even knowing it, is what we call the dialectics of Black Revolution. I think that you identified in your in your words, first and foremost, the counterinsurgency, the role, the attack against the Black Power movement has to be understood not simply as COINTELPRO, which was one program, but as a campaign of counterinsurgency. And part of campaign of counterinsurgency is mass demoralization. It's that mass demoralization that allows for the state to isolate the freedom fighters from the masses. The people brutalize those freedom fighters, lock them up, throw them away, and then ground people into submission to where they don't want to live like those people anymore. And then what we see in that condition right there in the 1980s is the way through which our communities were flooded with drugs, guns, and we're given that, instead. I mean, you know, yeah, I'll stop there, but and then the class aspect of it, right?
Wait, can I
Those
just say, oh, I'm so
yes.
sorry.
No, go
Like the
for it.
Black bourgeoisie is so fascinating to me because I read this tweet that was like, liberation has come to mean that everyone should have the chance to be the oppressor. And like I see that in like um how we're sort of fed and like black billionaires and black success and black excellence is like fodder for what we should be and to is what we
Right.
should aspire for as opposed to like total liberation for all people. So I think that's yeah, and like counterinsurgency is huge. Like they still like on the FBI's like state website, they have like a panel or like a pamphlet of like their counterinsurgency methods, and these
Yes.
things are all listed out, like not just like Reagan in the crack era, but like like it doesn't make sense to go from like Fred Hampton to like Blueface Baby. Like that's just like not a natural progression. And to be told like that's who we are is like just like sort of like broken English, sort of like ignorant, and like not to like crap on anyone's like identity, but just to be told like that's like the quintessential Black experience is like this like uh dilapidated, like ignorant, self like narcissistic. I hate the way that we're told like the reference points that of who we are in popular culture. I think is very fascinating. So I'm just grateful that like to see like no, like we've always fought for ourselves. We've always fought to be respected. We've always known that we are like divine beings because we're alive. And no matter whether they put crack in our communities, but no matter if they like do psychological terrorism on every front, whether it's in schools and by telling you sort of this disfigured retelling of history and like castrating our families through social programming, like all of these things collage to create like this really horrific image of like psychological terrorism that's oddly specific to America. So, and then you see it kind of manifested in like Aboriginal communities in New Zealand. Like they do this, it's
Hmm.
pretty much like a
Hmm.
same, it's a pattern that you see across different communities that are oppressed
Yeah,
globally.
go and watch a film, and I think the film suffers from its own petty bourgeois assessment of counterinsurgency, but the film is called Once Were Warriors. And it's set in New Zealand. I don't know if that's what you're referencing, but there's a film called Once Were Warriors set in New Zealand, and it's about the way through which settler colonialism and the and the conquest of the Maori people, sort of specifically, but Polynesians more broadly, resulted in this instance, sort of the dysfunction that this Maori family endures in the film, and it ends in a very sort of tragic way. But you sit back, and when you have the glasses of African internationalism on, it becomes less of a sort of petty bourgeois telling of a family's dysfunction, and more of a sort of at least evidence of the global campaign of counterinsurgency, because the outside of the United States, Polynesia and Oceania more broadly was a hotbed, an extreme hotbed for um, African liberation activity. I mean, there's this book right here by a guy named Tito Swan. It's an excellent book. It's called Pacifica Black: Oceania, Anti-Colonialism, and the African World. And and I remember there's this guy, he's a South Asian guy, he lives in Australia. Some video came out recently because in Moana, apparently she goes looking for her ancestors and comes upon an island of a whole bunch of black people. And somebody spoke on it and called this, says, oh, Moana's ancestors are African. And this South Asian guy who has his own politics, I found out that he's descendants of like Rajas who worked with the British government. And now he lives in Australia. He wants to dispel it because he says, and the most ridiculous thing ever, there's more, yes, they look black, but there's more genetic similarity between Africans and Europeans than there are between Africans and the people of Melanesia. I says, yes, there might be, I guess, but tell that to Christopher Columbus. You know what I mean? It's like there might be more, I guess there might be more genetic similarity if that's what you think informs us. But what informs us is political existence. And I know that when I look at the conditions of African people here, and Black people in the Pacific Islands, that we have a shared condition as colonial subjects. So I think what you're talking about is spot on. I think the big thing what you're saying is, you look at Georgia, you look at all this other stuff, and that stuff is righteous stuff to dig up. But when you can now step into an organization, step into a movement that places you inside that history, an unbroken chain of struggle. I mean, it really does. It really does feel good, and it even deepens the significance of the study that we're doing. So let's hear from a couple other people. We got about 10 minutes left. I really appreciate that, Comrade Erica. And where you out of, Comrade Erica? You said you joined the party recently?
Yeah, I'm from the Bronx originally, but
Okay.
unfortunately I live in Connecticut. So
Okay, right on, right on, right on. Uhuru. So I think I saw Comrade Jamal. Is that who had their hand up?
Oh, comrade.
Okay. And then Comrade MQ.
Oh, comrade. Yes, thank you. So, and I mean, I just wanted to, I think, recognize the really important part for me. The part that stands out is the statement here, moving from the first period of struggle into the second period of struggle, where the party is simultaneously opening, many fronts, many mass fronts, but also, I mean, beginning the earliest or the early stages of the coalition work that we see to this day. And I mean, I think in a lot of ways, it's some of the hardest work. I remember that's what the chairman told me when I asked him one of the first times I met him. I asked him it was at so one of the Black is Back conferences, the March on Washington. I think was it 12? I don't recall, but it was a period where we were sitting and eating, and I was asking him, how is it that that this is done? What do when you look at coalition work, how do you get it done? He's like, it's the hardest work. And I mean, I really, agree with that, but I also think it is extremely important work. There's so much
Mm-hmm.
ideological eclecticism, right? As far as what people want, that doesn't necessarily mean that folks are the other African people are necessarily our enemies, right? I mean, I think the party has, through African internationalism, the means to explain the world as well as to change it.
Right.
And that includes this, right? That includes bringing other people along, finding unity among well-meaning people, African people, as well as other colonized peoples, and even aspects of the colonizer class themselves who are trying to defect, right? Who don't want to live as parasites. So I think it's really outstanding. It shines bright to me that this is where this second period begins. And it also, in its calling out of the Black petty bourgeoisie, I mean, we talked about DEI ain't gonna save us. I mean, DEI, I said it, in the chat, it's an assimilationist tendency, right? The
Right.
whole,
That's correct.
I don't want to be included in a system where I have to share power with the people who want to destroy me, right? Who want to
Right. Right.
increase, who
Right.
want, right? If you want to, if why would I want to be included among the power structure when you have the biggest slave camps in the world, and most of them people in there is my people?
Right.
I don't want that. And
Right.
so
Right.
yeah,
Exactly.
so the I always thought that that was a weird game. I always, and one of the things that is nonsense is you look at a lot of the people in a lot of nonprofits who are DEI officers or whatever. A lot of them aren't Black, right? They're not even colonized, right? They,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
who is
Yeah.
this? Who is this exactly for?
Yeah.
And
Which
so,
I mean, we know it's not for us,
right.
but that also means the thing that is for us is to build power,
Well,
right?
exactly,
And like
exactly.
so peeing in a urinal or drinking water in a water fountain ain't for next to white folks ain't our objectives, right? But the point to organize around the attacks against Africans who want to do that isn't because that's our objective, but it's because
Oh no, exactly.
you take advantage of the social of the crisis and you flip it to your advantage.
Oh no, exactly.
No, no,
And
I know what
and
you
I
mean.
unite
I'm
with
just
that.
yeah,
Yeah, I unite with that because I think it's a lot of people who are waking up right now who
right,
really
right,
believe that stuff,
and we
right?
can extend that. We can extend
Yeah.
that to the question of USAID, and so many other
Mm-hmm.
things that are taking place, man. Because my mom called, and my mom, and I'm not going to say too much, but my mom says, you know what? She says, I saw this stuff about this boycott against these corporations, and I got all these companies that my mom is arthritic, so
Uh-huh.
she relies on Instacart,
Right.
and my mom says, well, there's all these companies that I used to go to, but now we're not supposed to go to those companies. Um, but what I've noticed is that the companies that aren't on the boycott list have started to raise their prices. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so she says, okay, they tell us to go to this other place, but this other place has now raised their prices, and now I have to pay more for the stuff to come to me. She asked me, what should I do? you know.
Right.
And I told her, well, Mom, I'm not here to disunite with anything people are having to push back against the system and power. So I wouldn't want you to vote, But that being said, I said, you're already a donor and a member of my organization. Spread this information, spread the need for Black power, and even raise the contradiction. Let people know. I think you can even let people know about this within our circles. Hey, this means, what's the rules? This means that the solution isn't, Safeway versus, Target versus Walmart versus whatever isn't going to save you.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So the solution is power in our own hands. So yeah, no, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Let's hear from MQ. And you got to come back to more studies, Comrade Jamal. You come once a month, and we want to talk for hours. If you
Right.
come more, then we can talk less, me and
No, you are right. I've been taking care of something personally. So
you.
yeah, I'm trying to make as many as I can, but I'm trying to do some personal study and
No,
development here.
man, no,
So
no, that's all part of it. Group study and personal study, as you
absolutely.
know, as a spoken as a real socialist. Right on, man. Uh, so so uh, so I want to make the call as well. I know, Comrade Emmanuel, you are a donor for Black Power 96, but if there's people in here that can make either sustaining donations or individual donations to Black Power 96, please uh, uh, um, uh, commit to making your donations to Black Power 96 to today. Um, Comrade MQ, and then Comrade Mecca, and then we're for sure going to end at the top of the hour.
Mm. Mm, Um, Two things. The within the article, and then so that was really powerful. About uh the election boycott for the election that wouldn't accept, or for candidates that wouldn't unite with PDUM's platform, and so then that was really concretizing for me the concept of taking up all the available democratic
Oh
space.
yes,
Yeah, yeah.
yes.
And so that was really great to read. And then also about how you mentioned about the about Black Oceania, and then so I finally figured out. It's like after many months of research. So then there's two migrations from Africa to the Pacific, and then the first is sort of the founding migration. That was the basically the Africans who went to the Andaman Islands. So then they formed the Andaman Islanders and the
Mhm.
Jarawa, and all the people in that island that's south of India, and then there's the Papuans and the Australian Aborigines. They came like in the same wave, but then they split off. So then Australian Aborigines, they're like their DNA is the diverged the most, but I guess because they were there like the longest or something. And then so Papuans are traceable. It's like directly to the African continent. And then so their descendants are the Mamanwa of Mindanao, and then the descendants of the Mamanwa are the Ati, Agta, Arta, Aita, and I'm probably forgetting some groups, but yeah. And then that was followed by a second migration from Madagascar, and then that's how we got most of our language in that whole area, basically from Sumatra to Borneo to Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao to Samoa, and then some other islands a bit out there. And yeah, so it's all one big region. Also in the area that's called Taiwan, but yeah, that's kind of politically fraught. So, but yeah, so
Uhuru. Yeah, yeah. That's all. That's excellent, and important work. As you know, when you look at the question of the African nation and what constitutes the African nation, we as African Socialist Party include those populations in the Pacific. So we're talking about people who recently migrated and historical migrations, but most importantly, we're united not just through our skin color or some DNA or something like that, but through our interaction with the colonialism which gives us the way forward. So I appreciate that and the research you always do. Let's end with Mecca and then we'll adjourn for today.
Uhuru, I just wanted to appreciate the study as well as the video because I thought it's very significant. You know, a lot of times I don't think enough importance is given to the fact that the Uhuru movement, African People's Socialist Party, really came after our enemies thought they defeated the revolutionary movement, and how courageous, the significance of how courageous it was, because that's at a time when a lot of people, for lack of a better word, was pool panic. So they weren't organizing like that. But Chairman O'Malley and other comrades from the Uhuru movement picked up the mantle and courageously was like, okay, we fit to organize and we coming, we're not fit to, because a lot of people, they were like, okay, we're going to continue to organize, but that's where you're seeing a lot of revisionism coming into the movement. Or a lot of people like you said earlier, well, we got to organize and we got to do it quietly. You know how we going to get the people if we do it that way. But, you know, the African People's Socialist Party courageously got out there and continued, but then also helped a lot of other movements. When we look at the tribunal and bringing groups together, we helped a lot of movements that were falling stagnant, revitalized a lot of groups that were coming up, you know, to be able to pave the way for them. So I just wanted to appreciate the significance of that.
Right, of course, because you come out of a formation that emerged in the early 1990s as a part of this same revival of the counteroffensive against U.S. counterinsurgency. Whereas some organizations that are around today, and you can do the readings, I'm not here but you can do the readings of the party chairman. But there's organizations that are around today that profess as revolutionary organization that saw the way forward as the African community uniting with the police to do patrols of our own communities and stuff like that, as opposed to organizing against the police placed as colonizing forces in our community. So yeah, it was courageous. So we got to know 1989. We're talking just months after the assassination of Huey P. Newton. Is this founding convention of the People's Democratic Uhuru Movement. So I want to salute everybody. Want to remind everybody that today's study was done as part of Black Power 96 February fund drive. We met our goal today of raising $500, but let's extend that. Let's go deeper than that. Once again, you can commit to as little as $5 a month. And if you are interested in doing it, I'm going to place your information in the chat. $5 a month is $60 a year. Tomorrow, Saturday is the 1st. You know, you can set them to come out whatever day that you want. But if that's something you can do, we really support it. When you're looking at a horror movie, looking at a self-sustaining movement for African liberation. So I want to thank everybody. Say Uhuru, and I will see you all next week.
Or back it up.
Uhuru, comrades.
Uhuru.
Uhuru.
Oh.